Thank you, Mr. Takano. I'd like to welcome a group of very young learners who have joined us today. Would you all stand up so we could see you and applaud you for joining us? We're so pleased to have you here, and we will be on our P's and Q's to make sure we behave. Mr. Grothman, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll start off with Dr. Gillen. A common argument we hear with regard to rising prices is because of state disinvestment in post-secondary education. You mentioned in your testimony how state funding has actually gone up over time. Can you elaborate on this? And in fact, as I understand it, states have increased funding. So who is the culprit when it comes to tuition inflation we've seen over the last few decades?
Yeah, so a lot of people, when you focus on public universities, will argue that tuition has to go up to make up for cuts in state funding. If you adjust for inflation, state funding has actually gone up. So there's a very influential report out there that does not adjust for inflation. Everybody sort of cites that. And
over what period of time?
This is from 1980 to today, okay. So four plus decades. And so once you adjust for inflation using any of the kind of standard metrics, it's either flat or up. So state disinvestment isn't a cause of rising prices, which raises the question, what is? And all of my research is pointing me to what's called Bemoans laws. And I mentioned them in the written testimony, but the Cliffs Notes version of it is colleges will raise and spend as much money as they can because they've got a never-ending goal to pursue educational excellence, prestige, influence. And as a result of that, whatever revenue source they can grab revenue from, they're going to, whether that be tuition, whether it be state funding, whether it be research dollars, whether it be commercialization, whether it be athletics. They're going to try to maximize revenue from any given revenue stream they have, regardless of what's going on with the others.
In other words, if they have access to money, they'll spend it.
Yes.
Okay, just a general question. This even goes back to when I was in college. It seems to me that a relatively high percentage of people who work for colleges, and I'm talking the white-collar jobs, not maintenance and that sort of thing, are not what I call non-teaching personnel. Could you comment on what's going on over time there and the percentage of people we have working in colleges, not doing research either, other sorts of advising sort of jobs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so there's been a bit of a brewing rebellion over what's called administrative bloat over precisely this issue, and so it's been a problem for a very long time, and I think it's very real. There's actually some evidence that the number of non-teaching staff on universities now outnumbers the number of teaching staff, which is bizarre for an educational institution to have that kind of staff ratio. Right. So yeah, I think it's definitely a concern.
Could you repeat that? Just, you are saying that there's some studies who've shown in some universities the number of non-teaching personnel outnumber the number of teaching personnel. I'll believe that. I just want you to repeat it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now I'll ask Mr. Horn. One of the biggest problems that students face today when they decide to go to college or not is they don't fully understand the financial responsibility they're embarking on. You mentioned how students can view student loans as free money, and quite frankly, at least some college advisors encourage that. Free money instead of something needing to be repaid. Before committing to a student loan, students must have the whole picture on how much money an average graduate from the school must pay back and how much money they're likely to earn in the future. What can be done to give students opportunity to make sure that borrowing choices are the right ones for them academically and financially?
Yes, so there's two components of this, right? One is on the student side, and there's lots of documented evidence that colleges mislead students with a variety of linguistics on admissions letters to confuse them around the actual price that they'll be paying and the obligation. And so one is sorting that out. But second, frankly, colleges, as Dr. Cellini was saying, have a much more macro view of the future of students in many cases. They can see things and have more perspective than students coming into higher education often do. And so having colleges sign up for risk sharing on those loans, as Dr. Gillen has laid out, would make a lot of sense because it would align incentives so that they're working with students and taxpayers on this and not misleading them.
I've talked to, in my district, leaders in the field, and do you find any effort being made by the colleges to discourage students from taking out any more debt, or are they even legally able to do that?
Colleges often talk about how students take out more debt than they wish that they would, but they don't actively take a role in helping them think through what those commitments will mean in the future.
Okay. Thank you.